It was just me and the open road, my trusty truck rumbling beneath me as I navigated the desolate highway. Darkness swallowed the landscape, the only companionship being the occasional flickering streetlight. The radio crackled softly, barely holding onto a signal in these remote parts. I'd heard the stories, of course. Tales whispered among truckers about this stretch of road being cursed, haunted by restless spirits seeking redemption or revenge. But I was never one to buy into such nonsense. Not until that fateful night. As my headlights painted the asphalt in front of me, a figure emerged from the shadows. A hitchhiker. It was cliché, sure, but in the dead of night, that solitary figure became an eerie silhouette against the darkness. Without thinking much, I slowed down and pulled over. The hitchhiker approached, his face obscured by the hood of his tattered coat. I rolled down the window, my heart pounding against my chest like a drum. "Need a lift?" I managed to ask, trying to sound casual despite the knot tightening in my stomach. No response. The figure simply opened the door and slipped into the passenger seat, his presence sending a chill down my spine. I swallowed hard, trying to ignore the unease creeping into my mind. I tried making small talk, but the hitchhiker remained silent, his gaze fixed straight ahead. With each passing mile, the atmosphere grew more suffocating. It felt as though the air itself had thickened, and the radio crackled louder, emitting static and distorted voices. My nerves were shot by the time we reached an old, abandoned gas station. I pulled in, hoping to break the tension, but when I turned to speak to the hitchhiker, he was gone, vanished into thin air. Fear clutched at my chest as I scanned the empty station. And then I saw it, a faded photograph lying on the seat. It was the hitchhiker, his face now visible. A face I recognized. It was mine. In a panic, I stumbled out of the truck, my heart racing, and that's when I noticed it. The highway, the gas station, all of it was just gone. I was trapped in a void of darkness, alone and surrounded by an eerie silence. As I grappled with this impossible reality, the photograph slipped from my trembling fingers, floating to the ground. It landed face up, revealing a chilling message scrawled in shaky handwriting. "It's your turn to wander these roads." And then, like a twisted nightmare, the hitchhiker's figure materialized in the distance, slowly walking toward me with a haunting familiarity. The air felt colder, the darkness deeper, as the realization hit me. I was doomed to wander this haunted highway, reliving the hitchhiker's fate again and again, forever lost in this spectral loop. The radio crackled one last time, emitting a faint whisper, "Welcome to the never-ending ride." And with that, the story fades into the unsettling unknown, leaving the listeners with a lingering chill that crawls up their spine, a shiver of dread that refuses to dissipate. The road stretched on like a never-ending path through darkness. I was alone, just me and my truck, surrounded by an eerie silence broken only by the rumble of the engine. The radio was barely audible, crackling with static, as if it struggled to connect with the outside world. That's when I saw it, an outline emerging from the shadows, a figure standing at the edge of the road. My heart skipped a beat. A hitchhiker, out here in the dead of night? I hesitated, but something pulled at me, a sense of obligation maybe. So I slowed down and pulled over. The figure approached, his face hidden beneath the hood of a worn-out coat. As he stepped closer, a shiver ran down my spine. I rolled down the window, trying to ignore the growing knot in my stomach. "Need a ride?" I offered, my voice breaking the silence. No reply. The figure wordlessly entered the passenger seat, his presence heavy and unsettling. I tried to strike up conversation, but he remained silent, staring straight ahead as if fixated on an invisible destination. The minutes dragged on, tension thickening with each passing mile. The radio crackled louder, the static growing into distorted whispers that sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. And then, Just as quickly as he appeared, the hitchhiker vanished. I jolted in my seat, glancing around in a panic. He was gone, leaving behind an inexplicable emptiness in the truck. That's when I saw it, a photograph lying on the seat, an image that made my blood run cold. It was the hitchhiker, but as I looked closer, I realized it was a photo of me, my face staring back in eerie familiarity. The realization hit me like a freight train. The hitchhiker wasn't just a stranger on the road. He was a reflection of me, a haunting reminder of something I couldn't comprehend. And as I grappled with this chilling revelation, the road ahead seemed to dissolve into darkness, a void swallowing everything in its path. The encounter on that open road wasn't just a chance meeting. It was a glimpse into a surreal and haunting reality, a reality where the hitchhiker was more than just a passerby, but a haunting reflection of a fate I couldn't escape. The road ahead remained shrouded in uncertainty, a mystery that sent shivers down my spine, echoing the eerie unknown of that fateful encounter. The moment the hitchhiker vanished, I was plunged into a whirlwind of confusion and fear. I stumbled out of the truck, my heart pounding, scanning the surroundings for any sign of the mysterious figure. But there was nothing, just the desolate road and the haunting silence. I tried to make sense of it all. How could someone disappear like that, without a trace? It felt like a nightmare, a twisted trick played by the darkness that enveloped the night. As I stood there, bewildered and on edge, I noticed something chilling. The photograph, the one of me and the hitchhiker, lay forgotten on the ground. But now it is different. The hitchhiker's figure had faded, leaving only my solitary image staring back at me. It was as though the hitchhiker had never existed, as though he was just a figment of my imagination. But the unease lingered, a nagging feeling that I couldn't shake off. I hurried back to my truck, my thoughts racing, desperate to escape this unnerving place. But as I reached for the door handle, a cold gust of wind swept through, extinguishing the dim light that flickered within the cabin. And then, in that fleeting moment of darkness, I heard it, the faint sound of footsteps approaching from behind me. I spun around, heart pounding, but there was nobody there. Just the empty road swallowed by the night. The hitchhiker's vanishing act wasn't just a disappearance. It was a disconcerting revelation that left me questioning the fabric of reality itself. The inexplicable events blurred the line between what was real and what lurked in the shadows, a haunting mystery that lingered long after that eerie encounter. The road ahead seemed shrouded in an unsettling uncertainty, a darkness that held secrets beyond comprehension, casting a chilling shadow over the vanishing act that still sent shivers down my spine. As I got back into the truck, an eerie sense of unease settled in. The night seemed to stretch on forever, the road ahead cloaked in an unsettling darkness that sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to shake off the feeling, focusing on the road ahead, hoping to leave behind the haunting memory of the vanishing hitchhiker. But as I drove on, strange things started happening. Shadows danced at the corner of my vision, fleeting glimpses of figures that vanished when I turned to look. The radio crackled with static, distorting into whispers that seemed to echo inside my head. I could feel the hairs on my neck stand on end, a chilling sensation that refused to fade. It was then that I noticed the figures, a procession of ghostly silhouettes lining the sides of the road. They were motionless, their faces obscured, but their presence was suffocating, like a weight pressing down on me. I blinked, hoping they'd disappear, but they remained, haunting and silent. And then as I looked closer, I realized something that made my blood run cold. They were all me. Different versions of myself, frozen in time, trapped in this spectral parade. Panic seized me as I realized what this meant. The hitchhiker, the vanishing act. It was all leading to this moment, a revelation that twisted my reality into a nightmarish loop. I was doomed to join this haunting procession, eternally wandering this desolate highway, trapped in a cycle of my own making. The haunting on the highway wasn't just a fleeting encounter. It was a horrifying revelation of a fate I couldn't escape. The spectral procession of my own likeness stood as a haunting reminder of the inescapable cycle that awaited me, a chilling twist that sent shivers down my spine. The road ahead dissolved into an abyss of uncertainty, a terrifying limbo where echoes of my own existence lingered, casting a chilling shadow over the haunting truth that left me trapped in a spine-tingling nightmare. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the inexplicable horror unfolding around me. The haunting procession of my own ghostly figures lined the desolate highway, their silent gazes fixated on some unseen abyss. I was trapped in this nightmarish loop, a prisoner of my own existence, and I needed answers. Desperation gripped me as I stepped out of the truck, my heart pounding like a drum in the suffocating silence. I approached one of the spectral figures, a trembling hand reaching out to touch its shoulder. But as my fingers grazed its icy form, it dissolved like smoke, leaving me grasping at nothing but empty air. Panic surged through me. I needed to break free from this twisted reality, to understand why this haunting was consuming me. I searched the truck for any clue, any shred of explanation, but all I found was the photograph, the haunting reminder of the hitchhiker's vanishing act. And then, as I stared at the photo, something clicked. It wasn't just a picture of me and the hitchhiker. It was a snapshot frozen in time, a moment captured before it all began. A moment that held the key to this chilling loop. But before I could decipher its meaning, a bone-chilling realization struck me. The figure in the photo wasn't just the hitchhiker. It was me. And as the pieces fell into place, a haunting truth emerged. I was the hitchhiker, forever bound to this spectral highway by a cycle I couldn't comprehend. Seeking answers led to an unsettling revelation. I was both the haunted and the haunter, forever trapped in a nightmarish cycle of my own creation. The unexplained dread turned inward, twisting my existence into a bone-chilling realization that left me trapped in a spine-tingling loop. The road ahead dissolved into an abyss of uncertainty, a haunting limbo where echoes of my own existence lingered, casting a chilling shadow over the truth that I was forever condemned to haunt this desolate highway. You ever had one of those nights where everything just feels off? Like the air is heavy with something you can't quite put your finger on. That's how it was that night on Route 66. The moon hung in the sky, barely peeking through the thick clouds. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the steering wheel of my truck, cruising down that eerie, seldom-used highway. I was a rookie truck driver named Sam, tasked with a late-night delivery. The road stretched out before me, swallowed by darkness on both sides. Not a soul in sight, just the sound of my truck's engine and the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. My GPS glitched out, leaving me with a flickering screen and a sense of disorientation. Suddenly, I saw a figure up ahead, standing right in the middle of the road. My heart skipped a beat as I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching against the asphalt. I squinted through the windshield, but there was nothing there. Just an empty road, bathed in an eerie glow from my truck's headlights. Shaking it off as fatigue playing tricks on my mind, I continued on. But the unease lingered like someone watching from the shadows. That's when I heard it, the faintest whisper, like a breeze carrying voices I couldn't quite make out. I brushed it off, chalking it up to the wind. Then the GPS crackled to life, guiding me to take a turn onto an even narrower road. The darkness seemed to swallow me whole as I followed its instructions. My pulse quickened with every mile, the feeling of being watched growing stronger. As I approached what seemed to be an abandoned town, a chilling sight awaited me. The buildings were decrepit, windows shattered, doors hanging off their hinges. But what sent shivers down my spine were the figures standing motionless in the darkness, their faces obscured. I slammed on the brakes again, my heart pounding in my chest. Before I could react, the figure started moving, slowly shuffling towards my truck. Panic surged through me as I fumbled for the keys to reverse, but the engine wouldn't respond. Just as the figures drew closer, the GPS crackled back to life with a single message. "You shouldn't have come here, Sam." Before I could process it, the figures were upon me. I closed my eyes, bracing for impact, but instead, there was silence. When I opened them, the figures had vanished, and I was alone on the road again. I managed to get my truck moving, speeding out of that town as fast as I could. The rest of the journey was a blur, but that message from the GPS haunted me. When I finally arrived at the delivery point, shaken to my core, I found out the chilling truth. The town I had stumbled upon had been abandoned for decades, and no one had set foot there in years. To this day, I can't explain what happened that night, but I'll never forget the feeling of dread that still lingers whenever I think about that eerie, deserted town on the seldom-used highway. As I hauled myself through the rest of the journey, my mind kept replaying those haunting moments. That abandoned town, frozen in time, with figures that appeared and vanished like mist. But it wasn't just that. Strange things started happening inside my truck. Apparitions they were. Images flashed in my peripheral vision, a shadowy figure standing by the roadside, vanishing the moment I turned my head. Whispers slithered through the air, words I couldn't quite catch. And the noises, unexplained creaks, taps and rattles that echoed within the confines of my truck's cabin. Every time I glanced in the rearview mirror, a chill would creep up my spine. It felt like someone or something was peering back at me from the darkness. My breath hitched with every sound, my heart racing at the slightest movement. I chalked it up to exhaustion, the mind playing tricks on me after the unnerving encounter. But as the miles passed, the occurrences became more frequent, more palpable. It was as if the air itself was thick with unseen eyes following my every move. The GPS screen flickered sporadically, displaying cryptic messages that sent a shiver down my spine. "They're watching," it would say, or "turn back before it's too late." My nerves were shot, my hands trembling as I clutched the steering wheel, desperately seeking an escape from this nightmare. But the worst was yet to come. As I approached a desolate stretch of road, a sudden jolt rocked my truck. The headlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. I slammed on the brakes, heart pounding against my ribcage, and that's when I saw it, a figure materializing in the passenger seat beside me. My scream died in my throat as icy fingers brushed against my skin, and a voice, hollow and chilling, whispered, "You should have heeded the warning, Sam." I gasped, my pulse racing at a dangerous speed. But when I turned to look again, the seat was empty. Trembling, I dared not glance in the mirrors, afraid of what I might see lurking behind me. That night, as I finally reached the end of my journey, I stumbled out of my truck, shaken to my core. I handed over the delivery, trying to mask the fear clawing at me. But deep down, I knew I wasn't alone on that desolate highway, and something sinister had followed me. And maybe it still does. That night haunted me long after the delivery was done. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss, something beyond my understanding. It wasn't until later, when I tried to make sense of it all, that I stumbled upon the chilling truth behind that forsaken town on the eerie highway. Research led me to local legends, a curse shrouding that very stretch of road. It spoke of spirits seeking revenge on trespassers, punishing those who dared to intrude upon their domain. The figures I encountered, the whispers, the unexplained occurrences, all tied to this cursed land. They were souls trapped between realms, angry and vengeful, forever guarding their desolate town from unwanted visitors. My heart sank as I read tales of others who had ventured there, their fates unknown, lost to the malevolent forces lingering in the shadows. The more I delved into these stories, the more I realized the warnings, the messages on the GPS, they were attempts to save me from meeting the same fate as those who had crossed into that cursed territory before me. I tried to brush it off as superstition, rationalizing it as mere folklore spun to keep people away. But deep down, a cold realization settled in my bones. I hadn't just stumbled into a forgotten town. I had trespassed upon sacred ground, awakening something ancient and wrathful. And as I lay in bed each night, haunted by the memories of that highway and the spectral encounter in my truck, a gnawing fear clawed at me. What if those spirits weren't done with me yet? What if, even now, they linger in the shadows, waiting for the opportune moment to exact their revenge? Some nights I still hear the whispers, faint but unmistakable. And in the darkness, I sense a presence, unseen eyes fixated upon me, reminding me that I may never truly escape the curse that lingers from that fateful night on the eerie, seldom-used highway. As I unraveled the mysteries of that cursed highway, a new revelation struck me like a bolt from the blue. It wasn't just chance that led me there. It was something far more sinister, something I had unwittingly carried with me all along. In my truck, amidst the cargo I was delivering, lay ancient artifacts, relics from a forgotten civilization. Artifacts cursed by dark rituals, each imbued with the vengeful spirits of those who once wielded them. I had unknowingly transported these cursed objects, unwittingly becoming a conduit for the malevolent forces that plagued that forsaken town. The pieces fell into place, the whispers, the apparitions. It all stemmed from those cursed artifacts nestled among my cargo. The warnings and messages, they weren't just cautionary tales. They were desperate pleas to avoid awakening the dormant evil within those relics. Fear coiled in my gut as I realized the gravity of my unwitting involvement. I had unwittingly brought forth the wrath that now lingered, an unwitting pawn in a game far beyond my understanding. Every creak, every whisper, every unexplained occurrence, all tied to the ancient curse that I had unwittingly transported. And as the realization settled, a bone-chilling dread washed over me. What if I had not only stumbled upon that cursed territory but had brought the curse itself to life? What if I had unknowingly unleashed an unstoppable malevolence upon the world, all because of my unwitting role in transporting those cursed artifacts? The thought sends shivers down my spine, and I can't shake the feeling that those spirits, once dormant, now roam free, seeking retribution for their disturbed slumber. The artifacts, lost among countless others in forgotten tales, now rest in the abyss, waiting for the next unwitting carrier to unleash their dark powers upon the unsuspecting world. And maybe, just maybe, they've already found their next vessel. It's a chilling realization that haunts me to this day. I've become a part of that eerie highway's haunting cycle, forever bound to its malevolent grasp. The cursed artifacts I unknowingly transported unleashed an ancient evil, and now I'm ensnared in its unending cycle of terror. Every night as I try to sleep, I hear the whispers, the same whispers that echoed through that forsaken town. Shadows dance at the corner of my vision, and I feel their presence, the vengeful spirits that linger from the artifacts I unwittingly brought into the world. I've tried to escape, to leave that nightmarish stretch of road behind, but it's futile. The curse has marked me, tethering me to that haunted highway. No matter where I go, the whispers follow, and the specters loom in the darkness, a constant reminder of my unwitting role in their awakening. I've tried to warn others to prevent them from falling into the same trap, but it's as if my words are lost in the wind. The curse is relentless, drawing in new, unsuspecting souls like moths to a flame, perpetuating the cycle of fear and despair. And now, as I find myself once again on that eerie highway, I realize the bone-chilling truth. I'm not just a victim of circumstance. I've become an unwitting harbinger of the curse, forever bound to roam this forsaken stretch of road, ensnared in its unending cycle of terror. And who knows? Maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next unsuspecting traveler to unwittingly cross paths with the malevolent forces that now call that haunted highway their home. The old truck stop, a desolate spot on the edge of town, had been closed for years. I remember the day we stumbled upon it, a group of friends looking for an adventure. The sun was setting, casting eerie shadows across the cracked pavement and rusted fuel pumps. We joked nervously as we explored the place, our footsteps echoing in the empty silence. The air hung heavy with the smell of decay and gasoline. Broken windows stared out like empty eyes from the decrepit buildings. It felt like we'd stepped into a ghost town frozen in time. That's when the first strange thing happened. A loud clang echoed from the diner. We froze, exchanging wide-eyed glances. Heart pounding, I led the way, expecting to find nothing but abandoned furniture. Instead, the swinging door creaked on its hinges as if someone had just passed through. Shivers raced down our spines as we cautiously entered. The place was a mess, tables overturned, chairs strewn across the floor. But in the corner, a radio crackled to life, emitting static and an occasional distorted voice that sent chills down our spines. Nobody had touched it. With unease growing, we decided to leave. As we made our way back to the entrance, we heard footsteps behind us. Each turn revealed nothing but empty space. Panic began to set in. That's when we saw it, a figure standing by the exit, cloaked in shadows. Fear gripped us and we bolted, racing for the exit. But as we reached the door, it slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping us inside. In a frenzy, we searched for another way out, only to find ourselves back in the diner. Confusion turned to terror when we realized the radio was broadcasting our conversation from moments ago. As we huddled together, a voice spoke from the darkness. "Welcome to the final stop." We screamed, pounding on the door, desperate to escape. But then, the lights flickered, and the figure emerged, revealing our own reflection in a dusty mirror. The voice spoke again, this time clearer. "The only way out is to join us." And one by one, our reflections reached out, pulling us into the mirror's depths. In the days when the truck stop buzzed with life, drivers would whisper about the strange happenings that made their skin crawl. It wasn't just the creaky floors or the flickering lights that unsettled them. It was the ghostly apparitions they claimed to have seen. Stories circulated of weary travelers catching glimpses of figures in the mirrors, faces that didn't belong to anyone around. Some said they heard voices whispering from dark corners, speaking words that sent shivers down their spine, words that seemed to know secrets they dared not share. Drivers swapped tales of phantom footsteps echoing in the dead of night, footsteps that didn't match anyone present. Others spoke of a ghostly waitress in the diner, eternally cleaning tables that would never be used again. These tales spread like wildfire, sending a chill down the spine of anyone passing through. I remember overhearing one driver recounting how he saw a figure sitting in one of the parked trucks, a figure that vanished into thin air when he approached. And another swore he saw a reflection in the bathroom mirror that blinked when he didn't. These stories, though whispered in hushed tones, lingered in the air like a haunting melody, warning any who dared to stop at that desolate place. But the most bone-chilling tale was yet to come. As the stories of ghostly apparitions grew, so did our curiosity. Despite warnings, we were drawn back to the truck stop, determined to uncover the truth behind these chilling tales. Armed with flashlights and nervous laughter, we stepped into the abandoned place once more. We wandered through the dusty rooms, expecting to find nothing but the remnants of a forgotten past. But then we saw them, faint outlines in the mirrors, figures that didn't belong. Panic crept in, but curiosity drove us forward. We needed to understand. The ghostly manifestations intensified as we explored. Shadows danced along the walls and whispers echoed in the empty spaces. Our hearts raced as we encountered reflections that mimicked our movements, but not quite right. It was as if they were imitating us, trying to lure us into their haunting world. Fear gnawed at us, but so did the need to understand. We stumbled upon an old journal, pages yellowed with age, filled with cryptic writings about a tragic accident that had claimed lives at this very spot. It spoke of a curse that trapped lost souls within the mirrors of the truck stop, seeking replacements to set them free. Dread settled heavy in our chests. Was it possible that these ghostly manifestations were the trapped spirits of those who perished? We had to find a way to break the curse, to release them from their spectral prison. The haunting memories of that truck stop lingered long after our visit. The drivers who had braved those eerie grounds found themselves plagued by unsettling experiences. Some spoke of nightmares where their reflections pulled them into endless darkness, while others swore they heard phantom footsteps following them wherever they went. Sleep became a rare luxury for those who had encountered the ghostly manifestations. Eyes red with exhaustion, they sought solace in company, fearful of being alone in case the spirits lurked in the shadows, waiting to claim them. The truck stop became a topic whispered about in hushed tones, a place avoided at all costs. But closure eluded us, and the mystery continued to gnaw at our minds. We needed to find a way to release those trapped souls, to put an end to the haunting. With determination fueled by fear, we returned once more. Armed with the journal's cryptic instructions, we attempted a ritual meant to break the curse. But as we chanted the incantation, shadows twisted and figures emerged from the mirrors, reaching out with ghostly hands. Panic seized us, realizing our mistake too late. The figures weren't seeking freedom. They sought replacements to continue their cursed existence. In horror, we understood. We had unwittingly offered ourselves as vessels for the trapped spirits. As the figures closed in, our screams echoed through the abandoned truck stop. Darkness enveloped us as ghostly hands reached out from the mirrors, pulling us into their world. I woke up with a start, drenched in sweat, realizing it was all a dream. Or was it? The faint whisper of voices lingered in the corners of my mind, a chilling reminder of that cursed place. Was it a premonition or just my imagination? Even now, whenever I pass by a mirror, I can't help but wonder if those trapped souls are still seeking their escape, waiting for someone new to stumble upon that desolate truck stop and unknowingly offer themselves as replacements. The unease lingers, a reminder that some mysteries are better left untouched, hidden in the shadows of our minds, waiting for the curious and the brave to wander into their chilling grasp. And that's where I'll leave it, for the unknown is sometimes the most terrifying tale of all.